Hi pen friends, welcome to Ginger Peachy Pens. My name is Sarah and today's video is all about the Pilot Custom 823. I did a video a while back on my two Custom 74 pens that I have and I love, and I recently I mentioned these in my Q&A, and someone commented and said, hey, do you have a video about your Custom 823s? And I said, no, I don't. So let me get right on that. So I will give you a disclaimer right here at the beginning that I do not have the weights of these pens or the measurements. There are a lot of people who do that and do it really well. But I'll be real honest with you, for me, that means nothing. You can say this is, 75 grams. And I'm like, okay, I need to touch it and hold it to understand what that means for me. And of course, every once in a while I'm looking at a measurement to see if it compares to something else, but that's just not what I do. So I apologize if that's what you're here for. But I do have some comparisons with some other pens to show you. I will talk about the weight and the length and things as far as how if they feel and how useful they are for me. So I ended up with all three of these just a couple of years ago when I heard that Pilot was raising the prices on the Custom 823 pretty significantly. So I thought, you know what? I've been wanting to use these and I thought, let me try one. So I just ordered one. I ordered the Smoke Custom 823, which is black, and it's got a translucent barrel here. I don't know if I can show you that very easily. What do I have that's white maybe? Can you see that it's translucent here? But it's like a dark gray translucent or black. And I ordered this one from Amazon with a fine nib on it. Got it in 2 days and inked it up. The Custom 823 is different from most fountain pens that people use regularly because it is a vacuum filler. So I'll show you that filling system shortly. But that makes it a little bit weightier because the materials inside are heavier. Anyway, so I ended up with this black one and gave it a shot. The fine nib felt a little bit sharp to me. I don't want to say scratchy. It did feel a little bit scratchy to me. These have what Pilot calls a number 15 nib. And it is similar to a Jowo number 6 nib size, but they are 14 karat gold. So this is a fine Pilot nib, which if you know nib sizing, then you know that Pilot is a Japanese brand, and Japanese nibs tend to be about one nib size down from Western nib sizes. So this is a little more comparable to say like an Esterbrook extra fine. I'm not a big extra fine nib person, so I wasn't sure if I would like this, but it was the only nib size I could get quickly and for a good price at the time. So picked that one up, and I was really enjoying it, though I was kind of unsure about that nib because it was a little bit scratchy or sharp. I don't like using the word scratchy because I don't think it was misaligned or anything. I think that I just wasn't used to the feeling. So after that, I found a transparent one for a really good price from eBay and ended up scooping it up, and it has a broad nib on it. And I was watching videos as many as I could about the Custom 823, and so many people love the medium nib. So finally it was like, well, while the price is still lower, let me hunt down an amber. So this is the amber color, and I know it's very hard to see, but it is a dark brown. I don't know if you can see the difference here. It is a dark brown. It is translucent in the barrel, and the cap is translucent. And maybe you can see this. And so I got this one with a medium nib. And the medium really is the sweet spot, though I really do enjoy all three of these nibs. So these Pilot Gold nibs are soft. They are very smooth, and they're not soft like to the point of flexible, but they just feel cushiony. I don't know. They feel so smooth and buttery on the page. And so I really, really like them, especially this broad one feels super, super smooth and cushiony. The medium is really the sweet spot for just everyday writing, perfect line width. And I actually really have grown to love this fine nib. So the thing about the Custom 823 is it is a vacuum filler. This is the one that you can see that filling system. So let me take the cap off. The transparent is not readily available in the US. That's why mine came from eBay. It does have a black finial and inner cap and a black piston, or the knob at the end. What's it called when it's a vacuum filler? And then a black grip. But the barrel is transparent. So this is perfect for me to show you how a vacuum filler works. And if you already know this, just forgive me, but just remember that there are beginners out here. So the way that a vacuum filler works, you unscrew this knob to open the valve and move this piston up. You can see there's a little rubber stopper here. When you pull this up, pull this back, and as you push it down, it creates a vacuum behind it. So it's creating a vacuum back here. And when it reaches this point down here where it's more open, I know you might not be able to see that, but when it reaches that point, that vacuum sucks ink up into the barrel. And so that's why it's called a vacuum filler, because it literally creates a vacuum for suction to pull the ink up into here. So I'm going to ink it with you in just a minute. You can see that there is still some ink in this pen. It's actually not full strength ink. I have actually cleaned this pen, and this is the one complaint that people sort of have about vacuum fillers in general. This is not just the 823, but vacuum fillers in general are hard to clean. The TWSBI ones, the VAC 700 and the 700 Mini, are maybe a little easier because TWSBI makes it very easy to open them, to disassemble and clean all the parts. The 823, you can disassemble it, but like Pilot doesn't give you instructions, as far as I know, on that. There are a couple of videos I've seen on how to do it, but it's a little less recommended, if that makes sense, to do so. So I have kind of just committed these to certain colors, and it may not be forever. I'm not gonna hold myself to that forever, but I've kind of committed to 3 colors that I really like to just keep in these pens, so that I don't have to worry so much about cleaning them. So, all right, let me do a few comparisons, and then we will ink this pen together so you can see how it works. And I'm going to try to get my camera down to the level where you can see it happen, and then I'll do a writing sample. So let me pull in a little Galen leather thingamajig here, and I'm going to put these right in the middle. So you can very obviously see that the closest comparison is the Pilot 743? 743? Yes, Pilot 743. This is the exact same pen shape, pretty much. You can see the obvious difference down here is the bottom finial, because the one on the 823 is a knob that you can twist, and this one is not. You cannot move it. It is fixed. So the 743, and I know most of you have seen this, but is their cartridge converter version of the 823, basically. So yeah, so it works like a cartridge. You can put a cartridge, you can use a Pilot converter. It is a lighter weight pen because it doesn't have all those metal parts in there. Not as many. I mean, that converter just doesn't weigh as much as all the metal in this pen. So if you know that you prefer lighter weight, I would suggest you go with a 743. Or if you know that you're going to absolutely want to change the ink color all the time, you probably would want to go with the 743 and not an 823. So that's something to keep in mind. Here is a comparison with the Pilot Custom 74. The 74 is a little smaller. I'm sorry, I know this might be hard to see here. The Custom 74 is smaller, slightly. It feels a lot smaller, I would say, but looking at them side by side, it's actually not that much smaller. I think the ends are just a little less pointy, and otherwise it's kind of the same length, but it is narrower. It is not quite as wide in the cap or in the barrel. It is lighter weight because it is a cartridge converter pen, and it has a Pilot number 5 nib, which is, I think, a little bit, it's maybe comparable to a JoWo number 5 nib. Oh, sorry. So here's the nib size difference. This grip section is a little bit shorter, a little tiny bit narrower maybe. Like, they're really pretty comparable. But in the hand, this does feel like a smaller pen, even though it's really negligible. I think maybe it's just the weight of this one and that larger nib. So that larger nib, puts your hand just a little bit farther away from your paper as well when you're writing. And that, I'm sure, has to do with it. But this is just similar to a JoWo number 6 size nib. So if you use an Esterbrook SD, or if you use, most small maker pens, or, so many pens, Franklin Christophs, Laban pens, all come with that JoWo number 6 size nib. That's going to be similar to the custom 823 size. I also want to compare the nib size. Here, I'll compare this to the TWSBI Eco. Oh, and this would tell us, actually, because this uses a number 5 nib. Here's a size comparison. Can you see? Of the two nib sizes. Obviously, the TWSBI grip is also a lot more narrow. These caps down. The grip is a lot more narrow, and that nib is smaller, but the TWSBI is actually longer, slightly, than the 823. Capped, that 823 is longer. So, I don't feel very organized doing this, and I do apologize to you if you feel discombobulated like I do. Here's an Esterbrook SD. These are very comparable in length. I could be using that tray to help me with this a lot more. And this, I think, will be a good comparison. So the length is pretty similar. That SD is a little bit shorter, uncapped. The grip sections are pretty comparable in width and length, and the nibs are about the same size. So if you want to get a good idea of what size the 823 is, if you have an Esterbrook SD, it's going to be pretty close. I even think that the width of the pen is probably very comparable. The width of the cap is pretty comparable. Yeah, size-wise, they're similar. The 823 is a bit heavier, again, just because of that vacuum filling mechanism. Here is a Jinhao X159. You can see that it is definitely wider, even though it's slightly shorter. And let me compare these grips, and then I just have one more to compare. This feels like a lot. Here's a comparison of the two nibs and the two grips. So very big difference there. And of course, the X159 is similar to a Mont Blanc 149 in size. And the last but not least, here is a Sailor Pro Gear Slim. And this is obviously a lot larger than that Pro Gear Slim. The Slim has more of a closer to a number 5 size nib. And yeah, let me show you capped. Here's a capped comparison. So, all right, let's get this. Let me see. Let me just pull this back in. You can see them all lined up together. Maybe this helps a little bit. Okay, so let me pull this back in, and we're going to ink this transparent one. I did try to clean it, but I'm going to re-ink it with the same ink that was in it. So I have my Monteverde Gratitude Magenta, one of my favorite inks these days. And let me see if I can bring this camera down. Hopefully you'll be able to see right here. So here's my ink. My arm might bump the camera. Oh, this is actually a really good angle to show you this pen. So here you maybe can see the filling system a little bit better. There's this metal rod that runs all the way through it, and that adds some weight to the pen for sure. So let's pull back the piston. And I'm holding this kind of like this with my pointer finger on the top. I don't know if I'll be able to get that in frame. Let me see if I can zoom out a bit. You can see some of my desk here. All right, I'm going to submerge these pens. Pilot pens draw up the ink right here. So you don't actually have to put the pen all the way in up to the grip like you do with a lot of pens. All right, so here we go. I'm pushing this down. That piston's creating a vacuum behind it. Oh no, I don't think I had it in deep enough. Okay, we're going to do it again. As I do this, you will see, you'll see that ink push back out. Well, I don't think you can see it. All right, here we go. This is the fun part. Ta-da! All right. And if you want a really full fill, there is a way to do it. You have to be very careful. You draw this piston back. Let me actually put my towel here so I don't spray ink just in case. Or no, not so I don't, but in case I spray some ink. All right, you pull your piston knob back. I haven't done this, at least not in a while. And then you push it. You have to slowly, carefully push it. You're going to see some bubbles coming out at the nib. But you push it up until there's no more air right here. We're pushing all that air out. Oh, this is nerve-wracking, and I'm doing it through my phone camera. All right, then I have to hold it. Oh no, it came back up. Okay, so I'm gonna push it. Oh no. Tilt it up. Push the air out. All right, I think I've got most of it out. I'm not gonna risk too much more. All right, and then we put it back in there. You can see I still left some air in there at the bottom just because of the way I was holding it. And hit it again, and that filled it almost all the way up to the very top, aside from that one spot that I didn't push the air out. So you can fill these completely, pretty much. I mean, if you worked with it just a little bit more and weren't doing this through your your phone's camera, you can get this a really full fill. And I mean, this would last, somebody who writes all day, every day, it would last them several days. This is a lot of ink in this pen. So then we can cap it back, close that piston knob, And we have a full pen. Put the cap back on here. It's kind of a nice camera angle here, but it's in the way of my face. So I'm having to like I said, do things through the camera lens. All right, so let me do a little writing sample of these. Here's something you have to know about vacuum fillers. And I'm going to show you with one of these. Is that, so this one has Iroshizuku Kujaku in it. It is kind of low on ink. It's down to here. My cousin's son, I let him take a look at all my fountain pens, and he pulled back the pistons and made a little mess but in the caps, but that is fine with me. It does not hurt my feelings. But every time I take them out, I'm like, why am I getting ink on my fingers? And it's because he put some ink into the caps. Something you have to know is that when this knob is closed all the way, this piston, that rubber valve gasket thing, I don't know the word, is closed, and it seals off the barrel of ink from the feed. Your feed is inside here, and this is part of your feed as well. But your feed in here has some ink in there because you drew the ink up through it. But as long as this is closed completely, no more ink can get down into your feed. So you can write for a while, and you may even be able to write a page or more without opening the knob. But at some point, you have to open this valve to release the seal, to open the seal of that rubber gasket that you could see, and allow some of this ink to flow past it down into your feed. So if I have seen people before think that their pen doesn't work anymore because they didn't know that you have to open that. So let me pull this back up a smidge. Put my microphone back in its normal spot. And let's do a little writing sample. So we'll start with this one, with the fine nib. Oh, I can smell the ink in this one. Okay, so this is the Pilot Custom 823 in smoke with a fine 14 karat gold nib. One thing I haven't mentioned is that these pens are very easily postable, even with that valve open. So I have the piston open so the ink can flow down into the feed, and that posts very securely. It does not fall off. So that's really nice. And it does back weight the pen a little bit. I kind of like that. But I don't think it's overly heavy. And if you find that to be overly heavy, this pen is plenty long enough to use without posting. So this ink is Diatramentis. I can never remember if Diatramentis is one word or if they have a space in between there. This is a scented ink, and it's called Violets. It's a darkish, it's kind of a bright, dark purple, if that makes sense. It's really, really pretty. It is one of my favorite purple inks. The scent is strong. I mean, when I open this pen, I can smell the ink, and you can smell it, as you write. It does dissipate once the ink dries, and I close the book and stuff. I won't smell it for forever or anything, but yeah, so that is my fine nib. The amber has a medium nib in it. I've already got that piston knob open. Like I said, I probably don't need to open it just to write this much, but it's already open. So this is the Pilot Custom 823 in amber. This dark brown is very popular. It can be kind of hard to find because it's sold out a lot of the time. I know it's hard to see that color. It's got a medium 14 karat nib, and it's inked with Iroshizuku, Pilot Iroshizuku, Kujaku. This is a really nice blue that's got a little bit of teal tint to it. I think that I actually got this ink as a freebie with this pen because I bought this one off of eBay as well. And I think the Japanese seller included the ink with it. So I just inked it up. I received it at work. And when I opened the package, I was like, great, I'm going to go ahead and ink it up with this ink. So, yeah, super, super smooth, medium nib. There is absolutely no tooth to it. It does glide over the paper really smoothly, but you can feel it enough on the paper to know that you're making contact. It's not exactly glassy, but it is very, very smooth. So I really, really like this one. This is, if I were to only be able to keep one of these, it would be this nib, though I'm not as excited about the amber color as I thought I would be. It's almost a little too dark. I wish it was a little bit lighter brown, personally. And the third one is the transparent, which doesn't look transparent anymore. But I'm not going to open the piston knob on this one. Again, Pilot Custom 823. This one is in the transparent color. Well, it's not a color, but it's in transparent with a broad nib, 14 karat gold. And this ink is my beloved Monteverde Gratitude. This ink is a gorgeous magenta, a top favorite in my book. So let me show you the comparison of the nib widths here. And I know that it's very hard to compare to how this would look in, in your own handwriting. I do write kind of a medium size, medium to large. I don't write really large, but kind of medium sized handwriting. And you can see this broad is quite broad, but in my kind of medium sized handwriting, you can still see the spaces inside my E's and A's. It doesn't quite close up. It is similar, I would say, to I don't know. I think it's kind of in between a JoWo medium and broad. I would not call it the same as a medium. It feels a little bit broader. And I would actually say that this medium is kind of in between a JoWo medium and fine. But just so smooth. So, so, so smooth. This is nothing like a Sailor nib. So, yeah. So anyway, this has gone on way too long. Can't believe I've talked about these for 30 minutes. I hope that this has helped you in some way. If you're interested in a custom 823 and you want to know, is it worth it? Because I know the price has gone up. I would say absolutely. Look, I have a marble. It's rolling around. Absolutely. I think that to have one of these for sure is worth the price. I don't think I would buy all three of them, today at the new price. And I did not even pay the old price for these. I bought them on eBay, like for the cheapest prices I could get them. Anyway, I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope it was informative. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments section. I don't know if I covered everything. I feel like a little bit jumbly, but I hope this was helpful for somebody. And yeah, I hope to talk to you very soon. Have a great day. Bye.